Today, I'm going to be discussing 5 cheap Xbox 360 games that I suggest any 360 user try in 2026. Now, my definition of cheap is that it is digitally under $10 via backwards compatibility, or is currently averaging less than $10 CIB on Pricecharting at the time of my writing. In no particular order, timestamps down below, the first game on today's list is Batman Arkham City, which is currently averaging $7.38 CIB on Pricecharting. Hailed by many, including me, as one of the best games ever, this is an open-world third-person action game where you play as Batman, and this game has amazing hand-to-hand fighting of beating baddies to a pulp. This game has a free-flowing combat system. It's really smooth, and it consists of striking and blocking attacks and dodging certain attacks like shield bashes, and you have some really neat gadgets that you can implement in combat, like a quick-fire batarang, a electric blast, and more. And this game has some really cool boss fights like Clayface, the Mad Hatter, and many other bosses. And this game has a pretty decent enemy variety of standard enemies. You know, you have like normal thugs, you have armored thugs, you have ninjas, and stuff like that. And this game also has some really fun stealth predator sections where basically you creep around and you try to silently KO enemies who are wielding guns. And you can do like a simple choke out, or you can get a bit more creative with it and use the bat claw to maybe pull enemies off of a high ledge, and whenever they fall on the ground they get KO'd. And again, you can get pretty creative with the stealth sections. Now this game is a pretty cool open world that you can just glide around and explore, and it feels just right in size, being neither too big or too small. And you can find collectibles, being Riddler trophies, or you can just solve riddles for experience points. You can do side quests like hunting down Deadshot, so this game does have a lot of side content with a pretty fair length campaign. Now, on a downside, this game does heavily push you to buy delisted DLC, but you can still get the DLC with the Game of the Year edition, which cost only a few bucks more. But with or without DLC, this game is awesome, and this is one of the best looking 360 games graphically. It has great performance, an amazing soundtrack, great VAs. Now this one is not backwards compatible, but it is a blast and is well worth buying. Alrighty, going to the second game on today's list, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This one is currently averaging $7.30 CIB. This is another goated, must-play Xbox 360 game. It has sold millions of copies, and it's been re-released exactly 587.5 times for a reason. It's because this game is awesome. It's been re-released and ported on everything: the Switch 2, the Switch 1, the Xbox One, the Hyperscan.
Hyperscan!
Where's the camera? There it is. Wait, this one? Say it again. Do it.
Hyperscan!
This is an open world fantasy RPG that I have spent hundreds of hours playing, and this is one of my favorite childhood games. I played this all the time back in middle school. Now, this game has a pretty neat story. You're more or less some dude who has dragon powers, and your end goal is to beat the big dragon boss Alduin. And of course, there is a lot more to this in the story, but that's just the basics of the story in a nutshell. And there are a lot of story choices that you can make on some quest, and there are a lot of factions that you can join with literally hundreds of side missions, and this game gives you a lot of bang for your buck. This game has a huge open world with a lot of cool places to see and explore, and this game has a lot of material things and a lot of weapons that you can use, like glass swords, iron daggers, a dragon bone bow, and basically the more you play and progress, the better stuff that spawns in, if you will. And this game has a pretty cool level up system which rewards you for trying out various play styles, and you earn XP for just doing stuff really. Like crafting will level up your smithing skill, and using a bow and arrow ups your archery skill, etc. And skill level ups contribute to your overall character progression, basically. And with every level up, you get to spend 1 perk point on any skill, and the progression system feels very rewarding. This game looks great graphically. Now, performance-wise, well, this game is infamous for its bugs and glitches, but most of them are more funny than anything else, like people just randomly teleporting, or maybe you kill a dragon and it's flying in the sky. Whenever it falls out of the sky, it'll kind of like halfway fall into the ground and just be maybe its head sticking up out of the ground, just stuff like that. But honestly, Skyrim is not Skyrim without the glitches. Now, this game does have some crazy long loading times, even with the disc installed, so that is something to keep in mind. This game is a great soundtrack. The VAs are great as well. Now, this game has some delisted DLCs, but they are in the Legendary Edition of the game as a DLC disc, but that version of the game does cost a bit more. But with or without DLCs, Skyrim is awesome, and this game is not backwards compatible, but it's a great game and certainly a must-buy. Alrighty, for the number 3 spot on today's list, Duke Nukem Forever. Y'all already know it is not a Zombie Gamer Cat video if I do not talk about Duke Nukem Forever. Now, this is the cheapest game physically on my list, coming in at $6.47 CIB. This is a criminally underrated sci-fi first-person shooter on the 360, and this game went through a crazy development cycle of over a decade, only to flop harder than a floppy disk at launch. Bad jokes aside, I love this game. It has amazing gunplay with a lot of cool guns. You have Duke's iconic shotgun, Duke's golden pistol, his chain gun, his RPG, and more. And this game is just simple fun. As far as enemy variety goes, you know, you have like pig cops, Octobrains, and other Duke-verse aliens with some pretty solid boss fights. And this game has some really cool sections where you can drive a frickin' monster truck. I mean, who doesn't want to drive a monster truck? And there are also a couple RC car sections where you're Mini Duke and you drive a little RC car. Those sections were okay, but the monster truck levels are a blast. Now, one thing that really makes this game pop is the interactable environment. You know, you can use pool tables, you can use pinball machines, you can play air hockey on one level, you can lift weights, drink sodas, and so much more. And a lot of items give you a permanent HP boost the first time that you use them, which is really cool in my opinion. The campaign is just really fun with some pretty fun multiplayer, but it is mostly dead these days. But at least this game does come with some really cool behind the scenes stuff. Graphically, this game looks awesome. The soundtrack is great. The voice actors are great, especially John St. John as Duke Nukem. Now, this game does have some pretty long loading times on original hardware, and there is a little bit of lag if a lot is going on at once, but this game is backwards compatible and it runs a lot smoother on a Series X. Now, the story is kind of weak, but Duke games, they don't really need a story. Now, this one can be bought for $20 digitally, but it does get some pretty frequent sales, being marked down to $4. And also, this game does have some pretty neat DLC. This is one of my favorite 360 first-person shooters, 100% worth a go. Alrighty, coming in at the number 4 spot, we have Call of Duty Ghosts. This one is currently going for $6.95 complete. This is probably the most underrated Call of Duty game, and this is a very impressive late 360 game, and it was also a Xbox One launch title. Now this game has 4 main modes: the campaign, the multiplayer, extinction, and squads. Now the campaign is pretty fun with many standout levels like the space levels, the underwater level. There are a couple levels where you get to play as Riley the dog, and being able to play as Riley was awesome and really fun. He's really fun to control. Now the gunplay is pretty standard, but it's still pretty fun. Now the cliffhanger story ending did kinda suck, but oh well. Now as for the multiplayer, it's pretty fun and surprisingly active last I checked. Just beware of cheaters and hackers. Now the multiplayer can be played offline via bot battles, and there are some pretty neat maps, and there's even a free DLC Christmas gun camo that you can still download. And there's some pretty fun modes like Team Deathmatch, Free For All, Kill Confirmed, all that good stuff. Now Extinction is a pretty cool side mode where you fight through hordes of aliens in a quest to blow up their mother nest. Now, I only ever played the single on-disc map, but this game did have, I believe, 3 DLC maps available at one point, but they have been delisted. Now, this mode wasn't as good as Call of Duty Zombies, but it was still a pretty neat bonus mode and a pretty cool idea. Now, the Squads mode. This is probably the most forgotten Call of Duty side mode ever. I never see anyone talk about this mode. This is basically the COD Ghost take on the Modern Warfare 3 survival mode, and while it's not as good as MW3, it's still pretty fun. It's basically a horde wave-based survival mode where you fight humans. This game looks amazing graphically. Probably the best looking COD on the 360 in my opinion, this or MW3. This game, it runs well performance wise, it has a really solid OST, pretty good VAs. This is definitely one of my favorite Call of Duty games and is well worth trying. Now it is backwards compatible on Xbox One and Series consoles, but you need to have the game physically or to have bought it digitally before it was delisted, because this one was delisted. But if you really want to play this one via backwards compatibility, you can do that, but again, you need to have a physical copy or to already own the game digitally. Alrighty, coming in at the number 5 spot, Plants vs. Zombies. This game is going for $11.07 physically, but it's only $4.99 digitally at its normal price. And for those who don't know, you can actually still download backwards compatible games on your 360. Basically, what you have to do is buy the game on the Xbox website or on a newer console, and then you can install it on your 360 from your download history. Now, this is a classic tower defense game that we all know and love, and it's pretty straightforward. You use plants on the left side of the screen to fight Zeds who are attacking from the right, and you use sunlight to buy new plants. This was a very creative idea, and this game is a very fun gameplay loop of basically building your lawn up from zero on every level to combat the Walking Dead. Now, this game has a 50 level campaign, and every 10th level unlocks a new chapter and a new environment, like taking place at night or adding a pool, and every chapter requires different plants to beat the levels, and this game has a ton of plant and zombie variety. For plants you have like pea shooters, mushrooms, potato mines, cabbage pulse, all sorts of really creative stuff. And as far as the zombies, you have like football player zombies, bobsled zombies, miner zombies, bungee zombies, just a ton of enemy variety. And this game has quite a few side modes. You know, there's PvP, couch versus, mini games, the Zen Garden, and so much more. This is one of the best games ever, and it has beautiful cartoon graphics and a great soundtrack. It runs well performance-wise. You get hundreds of hours of gameplay with a $5 bill. Well worth it. And yeah, 5 cheap Xbox 360 games that I strongly suggest any 360 user play in 2026. Tell me your thoughts about this list down in the comments, and maybe tell me some cheap games that you could recommend. And yeah, thanks for watching and for putting up with my bad voice. It does mean a lot. Now, for those new here, I mostly review and discuss Xbox 360 games, so feel free to sub if that sounds interesting. And follow me on GameRam for hints at upcoming videos and behind the scenes stuff. Now, as far as our Bible verse of the day, I read Psalm 146:1 NIV. Praise the Lord, my soul. And like always, none of my vids are made by AI, keep YouTube human, and only watch man-made vids. And I never give permission for my voice and likeness to be copied and altered by robots in any way. My voice is like pretty much dead, so thanks again for watching. Keep the 360 alive. Peace. And skill level ups and this game is a pretty decent enemy variety of just standard enemies.